live performance from 2001 that he gave at Tower Records. He's basically in a record store talking about his musical influences when someone shouts out jokingly, "In Sync, Dirty Pop," which was a hit at the time. So he kind of acknowledges the reference, and then he jokingly launches into a complete version of the song.
Sick and tired of hearing all these people talk about what's to do with this pop stuff, what's gonna clean up.
Which was so well done, it's got to be something he was playing around with beforehand in the time leading up to it. But he's certainly capable of improvisations of this type. We've seen it from him before. So when I'm describing the song, just a little intro bit here, I'll be talking about the strings and their note values, and they're also their string numbers. So the sixth string, the one closest to you, is the low E. The fifth string is the open A. The fourth string is the open D. The third string is the open G. The second string is the B, and the high E string is the first string high E. I'll be talking about note values on the fretboard by this open note value and the fret number. When I go E7, low E7, I mean low E string, 7th fret, that kind of thing, just to kind of orient ourselves a bit on the fretboard. So let's get right into it. It's played with the pick and the fingers. First thing he does is he does this A-ish type chord and he strums it with the pick. So that chord is played with the thumb on E5. We have our second finger on D5 and our third finger on G5. And then the second and first strings are open. After he strums it, he takes his pick and he kind of secrets it away between his fingers. So now he's in finger picking mode. I use my second and third finger to keep the pick. He uses his first and second. Go with whatever one you want, but you can kind of practice this kind of motion until you can get good at it. So after that initial strum, he goes into this finger picking groove. So we buried the pick and we're starting to do this. And that little groove on measures 2 and 3 is simply this. We pluck that chord. We have an upstroke kind of muted plunk with the first finger on the fourth string muted. So, and then we have a thumb slap muted. Then we're plucking the chord. And then we're sounding the lowest note of the chord with our thumb. Slap, and then open low E string. So slow, that's. And to speed, it sounds like this. And measures 2 and 3 are the same. So off the top, get our pick back, we do that strum. We hide the pick in our fingers, get into that groove. Measure 4 is slightly different. We have a little strum in there, a muted strum. So we pluck the chord like before. We do a down, up strum with the slap, pluck the chord once. We don't follow up with the bass note, but we throw in that little upstroke pluck on the muted pluck on the fourth string, and then the slap, and then the open. So let's look at measures 1 to 4 from the top slow. Get the pick back, bury the pick. That's measures 1 to 4. Measures 5 to 7 sound like this. We're introducing a D chord, the bottom 3 notes of the D9. And measure 5 has us hitting that note, some muted notes, up, slap, back to our A root chord, hitting the low part of it, our upstroke muted 4th string, and then our slap, and then a more D-ish kind of configuration when we do this kind of thing. What's going on there in measures 6 and 7 are we're starting with the D, and then really quickly we're playing the lowest note of that chord, followed by a slap, followed by the whole chord, and then the lowest note of it again, slap, and then the open 5th string. So that's measure 6 really slow. Measure 7 is similar, but we don't have that second note sounding after the chord. It's just the chord. Slap, slap, and then open 6th string. So measures 5 to 7 slow. Measures 8 and 9 change the rhythm a bit and add a new chord going just before going to the fast fingerpicking section. It sounds like this to speed. So really slow. This is our new chord. We're basically taking that A chord and we're dropping the 4th string from the 5th fret to the 4th fret. So we have this slap back to our A chord. A little up pluck, slap, up pluck, slap, and then slap, open. So one more time, slow. And this just kind of adds a little build to that fast fingerpicking section. To speedy it sounds like this. Measures 10 and 11 feature some fast fingerpicking goodness. They're the ones that sound like this. And they're crazy. And right off the top, don't sacrifice the feel of that stuff for hitting all the notes that he does when he did it that day. So slow, it actually sounds like this. Which is kind of neat. And you can practice that up, but it's more important to have the attitude and the feel. Instead of the really trying to hit all those individual notes. I guarantee you, he doesn't play it like that twice, so neither should you. So off the top, we're holding that A shape we're familiar with, and we're using our thumb and first finger to arpeggiate these notes. Thumb, index, thumb, slap, index, buck, and then thumb. This is measure 10 I'm going over. We have a slight pause after that note, and the thumb actually skips over and does the part the finger usually does, because it's a longer note. Slap, open, and then we start measure 11. So let's just do measure 10 one more time slow. And then fast, it sounds like this. Slow one more time, measure 10. Measure 11 starts much the same way. We don't have that little puck there, but measure 11 ends off with this. So the slap is in a different spot. We have that low note, slap, and then the high E. So measure 11 slow, slap, no puck. So measure 10 and 11 slow. One more thing I just want to go over. Right after that fast arpeggio stuff, we switch to the pick. So the pick is still sequestered in our fingers. I'm just going to go really quickly and show you where I switch to the pick. So right after you finish that second arpeggio, here, you're going to switch the pick. Then into this part. So that requires some practicing. I actually do the first strum with my finger. And as I'm doing the downstroke with my finger, I come up. Okay, let's just do that slow. The finger, flip up. Now I'm at the pick. But let's look at those following measures in a bit more detail. Measures 12 to 17 feature a lot of rhythmic strumming, and they sound like this. And feature these punctuated chords. So off the top, we're kind of centering around that A chord that we're familiar with, but we're doing a little pull-off hammer-on thing on the 3rd string from the 4th fret to the 5th fret. We're kind of doing this within the context of the chord. And right near the tail end of measure 12, there's a high note, 3rd fret of the 1st string. He seems to be hitting it incidentally with the fat of his finger, but when I go to play it, I gotta actually go and fret it. So you can do it if you want to. Slow again, measure 12. And if you're not comfortable with that, just strum the hell out of it. Like that, within the number of beats you got. After that, we have those punctuated chords. And they are that A chord we're familiar with. The next one has the 8th fret of the low E string. And then it's barring with your first finger the 2 middle strings at the 7th fret. So first one is that A, the C-ish type thing. After that we have a D9. And after that we have this kind of G7-ish thing. The G7 chord is barring with your first finger on the 5th fret, the 5th string, 4th string, 3rd string, and then with your 3rd finger or your pinky, whatever you want, you're hitting the 7th fret of the 2nd string. So once more, other chord is our D9 and our G7-ish thing. So, and they're played off of that big chord strum. So that is measure 13. After that, we go back to that kind of rhythm. Sometimes there's some low E double pumps in there. Throw them in there if you want. After that, we're on measure 15, I believe, and that concentrates more with this note at the 4th fret of the 3rd string. We're strumming more of this type of chord in the unhammered on state. Going into the last bit, we have a very muted version of that A. It's before going into the final. And that second pass of those punched chords, we're kind of hitting the lower end of all those chords. Very bassy. In fact, this second the second C chord changes a bit. We're doing the 8th fret of the 6th string and then barring strings 5 and 4 at the 7th fret. More bassy. That D9 chord, we're just playing the 3 top strings. And the very last G7, we're including the 5th fret of the 1st string in our chord. So it sounds like this. So let's play through the whole thing slow. Timing's a bit different in that last one. Like that. The first time you do it, it's where there's little rests in between. Rest, rest, rest. And then the very last time you do it, it's rushed with a bigger pause, and then finally that. So that's measures 12, 17. Measures 18 to 21 are the beginnings of a segue to get you into the intro to No Such Thing. It sounds like this. So there's a lot of fiddly little chord bits. Let's take a look at what's going on. They're all based off the opening A chord. And measure 18 is this. So we start off with that A chord. We have a muted down and up stroke followed by a really big muted down stroke. And then two bass notes, the 5th fret of the 6th string and the 8th fret. So far that's... And then we have a down up muted stroke before settling in on the top 3 notes, the bottom 3 notes of that D9. So all together, like that. So the next measure after that is we're doing this chord. So we have our 2nd finger on the 4th fret of the 3rd string, 3rd finger on the 5th fret of the 4th string, and our thumb on the 5th fret of the 6th. And we do a muted downstroke, and then we concentrate on the middle 2 strings before returning to the bass note, muted strum, and bass note again. So slow it's. One more time. That will do it to speed. Like that. After that, we go into a... So it's that A chord again, twice, and then we're barring the top 2 strings at the 3rd fret. Before coming back to the root, and then doing this little C, which is the 8th fret of the 6th string, and then 7th fret of the 5th string, and ending off on that bottom end of the D9. So, and then the final part of that measure, 21, sounds like this to speed. Slow it sounds like this. What we're doing there is we're doing the A chord, muted, strum down, then we're doing that thing where we bar the top 2 strings of the 3rd fret. We're hitting that twice. Then we're doing this thing where we're lifting off the 3rd string and letting it ring open. And that finishes off the measure. So one more time, measure 21. And be sure to get the last 3 chord shapes here. And we're just kind of throwing that in the chord shape we're doing. One more time. Measures 22 to 26 complete the segue into No Such Thing. They sound like this. And we go into the... That's familiar to us for No Such Thing. So measure 22 sounds like this. We have that A chord with the thumb. What we're doing there is, after we do that initial chord, we have 3 muted strums, and we have a slide with the 2nd finger from the 5th fret on the 6th string to the 8th fret. After that, we form a chord. So our 1st finger is going to be on the 7th fret of the 5th string, our 3rd finger is going to be on the 8th fret of the 2nd string, with our pinky lying in wait to fret the 10th fret of the 2nd string. So from the top, after that we have a muted strum, and then this neat chord. And that chord is 1st finger on the 5th fret of the 1st string, 3rd finger on the 7th fret of the 2nd string, 2nd finger on the 7th fret of the 3rd string, and the 4th is open. So from the top, like that, to speed. After that, we go to the next measure, and we're back to this chord where we have a hammer-on thing about to happen from the 4th fret of the 3rd string to the 5th fret, and we're going to be using our pinky for that hammer-on to free up our 1st finger to fret down here. So That's what's happening there. So we strum it open, muted, and then we have our pinky on the 5th fret of the 3rd string. And then we're going to bar with our first finger the 3rd fret. And then there's a neat timing thing. For the most part, that measure's over now, but there's a little lead in with an open 6th string into the next measure, and I'll just play that. So before that last measure ends, we have that low open E, and we have this thing. Going into the next measure. So the timing is weird. Let me just play it from the beginning until that point to show you what I mean. So the timing is kind of odd. Then we're coming up to that part where we have these familiar chords, or soon to be familiar chords from the No Such Thing part of the song. That first chord is barring with your first finger on the 10th fret from the 5th string, 4th string, 3rd string to the 2nd string, and then our 3rd finger is fretting the 12th fret of the 3rd string. We have a muted strum, and we move into the next chord, which is barring the 11th fret from the 5th, 4th, and 3rd string, and then our 3rd finger is on the 13th fret of the 4th string. And we include the low E in that. So from the top, that measure. And after that, the measure that follows is just going back and forth. Like that. We're just dropping that 1 fret, and then going back and forth with some muted strums in between. And then into the measure after that, we actually end off that measure down here. There's a preemptive chord down low to finish off measure 26. So let's do the whole thing slow, measure 22 to 26 from the top. Just go over that last measure, measure 26. We're doing the low part of the A, and then open, and then fretting with the first finger on the top 2 strings. The slide now that comes from the 5th fret to the 10th fret, I always switch from my thumb to the first finger. So switch to the first finger, then we hit that, and that's the end of measure 26. After this, we're into the intro to No Such Thing. Measures 27 and 34 are the No Such Thing intro proper. It's this thing. And live, he does a bunch of small variations, but for the most part, we'll stick to the studio rhythm for that. So basically, we're up here in this chord we've seen before a bit in the intro. We're barring at the 11th fret from the 5th string, 4th string, 3rd string, and then we've got our 3rd finger on the 13th fret of the 4th string. And the rhythm is this: open 6th string. And that little bit, we're basically going, changing the notes up on the 4th string. From the 13th fret, we're going down on the 11th fret, and then back up to the 14th fret. And then once we're back up to the 14th fret, we're keeping that as our new chord. And we're kind of doing it in reverse. So slow. Repeat that twice until the singing starts. So to speed, it's the verse for No Such Thing, measures 35 onward. It's probably a good idea to kind of stick to the studio version of this and just throw in Make Up Your Liberties, kind of that you hear in the Dirty Pop version of it, because Dirty Pop has so many variations, it's kind of hard to keep track. So let me just teach you the studio version, and I'll show you one or two variations you'd hear in Dirty Pop. So basically we're up here with this chord again, with the root note on the 11th fret of the 5th string. Then we drop it all down a string. So that new chord is the open 5th string. We have our first finger on the 11th fret of the 4th string, third finger on the 13th fret of the 3rd string, and you can sometimes leave these bottom 2 strings 2 and 1 open if you want. And then we go to another chord with its root on the 9th fret of the 6th string, play with our thumb. We've stacked fingers 3 and 2 at the 9th fret on the 4th string and 9th fret on the 3rd string, with our first finger fretting the 7th fret on the 2nd string. And that chord sounds like this. So let's just go back to the top and kind of see how a Dirty Pop variation would sound like. So let me just go through that slow for people that want to hear that. Then we get into a really nice bit here. And the rhythm on the Dirty Pop version is like that, before starting the whole thing over again. So that chord is, I call that the message in a bottle chord. First finger is on the 10th fret of the 5th string, second finger is on the 12th fret of the 4th string, and the pinky is on the 14th fret of the 3rd string. And the rhythm is, and then we turn this into a bar chord basically, with the 3rd string barring the 12th fret at the 4th and 3rd strings. And then we unbar that and add in our second finger at the 11th fret on the 3rd string. So these are the notes. And the rhythm is really neat. So slow. And then it starts over again. And then finishing up this part, we add this new thing in. And what that is, it's chord way down low. Let me just kind of give it to you. Thumb is on the 2nd fret of the 6th string. Second finger is on the 2nd fret of the 4th. Third finger is on the 3rd fret of the 3rd string. First finger is on the 1st fret of the 2nd string. And we strum the whole thing. And then we kind of change it around a bit. We're taking that 1st fret on the 2nd string and moving it up. Well, actually, we're not moving the same finger. This is the chord. It's kind of like a D chord, but up a string. Okay, so we have our root is in the same spot. Our first finger now is on the 2nd fret of the 4th string. Third finger is still on the 3rd fret of the 3rd string, and our second finger is on the 2nd fret of the 2nd string. Sounds like this. So we're coming from, and then to end it off, our pinky hits the 4th fret on the 1st string. So this is the movement. And the rhythm is something like that. That takes some getting used to. On the studio track, he just hits them one at a time. But live, he's like... Yeah, I gotta watch that one. And that is pretty much how the verse goes. Measure 45 is sort of the pre-chorus, and that sounds like this. So instead of playing the whole thing through slow, let's just play all the individual parts slow. We start off with this nice 2-chord run up, and the chord we're doing is first finger on the 2nd fret of the 4th string, 3rd finger on the 4th fret of the 3rd string. We're playing everything full. And we're going to stop at 4 positions. So the first position has our first finger on the 2nd fret. Slide it up next after that, so your first finger's on the 4th fret. Then slide it up so your first finger's on the 7th fret. And then one more time till your first finger is on the 11th fret. And the rhythm is... and you repeat. When you're up here at the 11th fret position, I hear on the track this harmonic on the 2nd string, 12th fret, just because of the way your hand is. It also sounds really nice if you reach down with your 2nd finger and fret that 2nd string at the 12th fret. Sounds nice. And it sounds nice when you don't as well. The overtones that are ringing all over the place give the illusion that that 2nd string B is sounding higher than it really is. So that's the first part. And then we come to this chord. And we do a hammer-on pull-off here. It sounds like this. Simple enough. So again, that's coming out of the... And then we go down to 2nd position here. Our thumb is fretting the 2nd fret of the 6th string. Our 2nd finger is on the 2nd fret of the 4th. 3rd finger is on the 3rd fret of the 3rd string. We're muting the 5th string, and we're letting the 2nd and 1st strings ring high. So that's how that goes. So coming out of that. And the rhythm there is concentrating on the lower part of it. Now we're going to begin a series of kind of chords that descend the note values. So we go back to that very first chord we had. And then we start some bass notes here. So our 2nd finger hits the 4th fret of the 6th string. And then we're going to have our thumb hit the 2nd fret of the 6th string. And that's how that ends up. We're coming up to here. Let me do that part again. There's actually some open strings there. It sounds weird when you play them slow, but they're there. So let's do the whole thing slow. Oops, an extra in there. Ignore that. So that last part again. So that is... And then we move into the chorus. Measure 55 is the first chorus, and it sounds something like this. And it ends off like that on that interesting timing to get you back into the verse. So we do that A chord again. We strum it twice, and then we, with our first finger, bar the 2nd and 1st strings at the 3rd fret, and then a series of muted strums to get us to up there, that chord. you've seen that before. Okay, so one more time. Once we're up here, the rhythm for the measures that follow are like this. And we start over again. Start over again. And then we end off the measure like that so we can get into the verse. Measure 66 is the bridge, and it sounds like this. So the chords we're doing there are kind of F-ish. So we have our thumb over the first fret of the 6th string, muting the 5th, 3rd finger is on the 3rd fret of the 4th string, 2nd finger is on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, and strings 2 and 1 ring out open. After that, we actually take our 1st finger and fret the 1st fret of the 2nd string and lift it off. And there's several accents. They're like, so pay attention to those. And then we slide the whole thing up to the 5th fret, thumb on the 5th fret. Same shape as before without that fretting involved. So that chord sounds like this. And that's played like that. First time he gets up there, he arpeggiates it a bit before going back down. Again, accents. Before going into this chord. And that chord is 3rd fret of the 6th string with the thumb, muting the 5th. 3rd finger is fretting the 3rd fret of the 4th string. 2nd finger is on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string. And then strings 2 and 1 are open. And the rhythm for that is... And that ends that off. So just another word about the rhythm or feel of this. It's very lackadaisical. Breaks up the fast tempo of the earlier part. And as far as, let's just go through that slow. So remember the accents. Sometimes hammering on with that 1st finger. Or you don't even have to. Sometimes he goes through a passage where he doesn't even do that. Before going into that final chord. And at this point we go into the pre-chorus. So that is the bridge. Now we're in the solo of the song. They all follow a similar rhythmic kind of pattern where they start with a variation on the A chord, chorus, and then turn into this kind of lickety split thing after that. So starting with measures 78, 79, we'll take them 2 measures at a time to get them straight, and I'll show you what I mean. So measure 78, 79 sounds like this to speed. And slow, it's... So we're starting with a rhythmic chorusy type thing. So that's all pretty much similar throughout. The first time we do this, though, we do something interesting. We kind of hammer on with our thumb on the 5th fret of the 6th string. Before going into this slide, we switch to our first finger. One muted downstroke, and then one chord shape there. So after that, we have this neat thing. We have one muted strum, and then a double pump on the harmonic at the 12th fret of the 6th string. It's very evident. And then you slide down, and as you're sliding down, you do another up-down thing before going to this lick. And that lick is 3rd fret of the 6th string. We slide up to the 4th with our 3rd finger. We do a hammer-on from the 2nd fret to the 4th fret on the 5th string, terminating with the 2nd fret of the 4th string, ending like that. So one more time, slow. And to speed. Measures 80 and 81 sound like this. Slow. So we're getting more chorusy into our sliding up from the 3rd fret on the 6th string to the 5th fret into our chord. Now the chord has changed. Instead of, we're actually fretting, oops, there we go. You can kind of see in the tab, we're basically changing the fretting from the, instead of fretting the 5th fret at the 3rd string, we're fretting the 5th fret of the 2nd string. Opens it up a bit more, makes it airy. I believe this is just a fast fretting difference he's doing because he's going so fast into something conscious. So remember that. You can throw it in if you want. Switching to the first finger for the slide up from the 5th fret to the 10th fret. 2 muted strums now instead of 1 like in the last 2 measures. So now the lick part starts with 2 muted strokes. And then we have this pull-off lick. And what's neat about that is the first time we do it, it's pull-offs, pulling off from the 1st fret of the 5th string to the open 5th string, from the 3rd fret of the 6th string to the open 6th string, from the 2nd fret of the 4th string to the open 4th string. So at this point we're kind of repeating it, but we do something a bit different. We do like a hammer-on pull-off. And this hammer-on pull-off makes it sound faster than it actually is. I think it's a syncopation thing where Mayer's going so fast, he's actually picking the note before he's fretting it, and you get that instead of a clean, you know, I'm not telling him how to play or anything, but I think it's just a very happy side effect, and it makes it sound faster than it really is. Like, for instance, if you start throwing on hammer-ons in there, you kind of push the timing of the lick off, and it just sounds really cool. So one more time, slow from the top, measures 80 and 81. And don't forget that hammer-on at the very end of that. Measures 82 and 83. And then slow. Bit of change off the opening. After that slide, we're just basically hitting an open B, and then coming down into the regular A chord, switching to the index finger for the slide, and then our chords, 2 strums. And the lick part starts with a single muted downstroke, and then we have a series of hammer-ons and pull-offs. So starting on the 5th string, we're hammering on from the 2nd fret to the 4th, and then we have the open 4th string hammering on to the 2nd fret and the 4th fret, and the open 3rd, and we come back down, 4th fret of the 4th string, 2nd fret of the 4th string, open, and then we have open string on the 5th, a really quick one, hammering on from the 2nd to the 4th, open 3rd again, and then open 5th to the 2nd fret, back to the open 5th fret, 3rd fret of the 6th, open 5th. That's a mouthful. I hate explaining them note by note. Let's just play it slow. And again, we have a couple of those kind of leading hammer-ons to make it sound faster. Instead of just straight, it's, and to speed, it's hard to get that. He gets it sounding really super clean, so you really want to work on that and get that. And the picking, I don't even really know what I'm doing. Downstroke, down, up, down, upstroke, down, upstroke, down, down. If that helps anybody. As long as it's fluid and rhythmically pleasing to the ear, you're fine. So from the top, slow. Measures 84 and 85. Slow. It's a strange one. Features a one kind of string bass line run up in the second measure. So the intro to that is similar to the other ones. This part, we start on the 3rd fret of the 6th string and slide up to the 7th fret. And then back down to the 3rd fret. We do a little rundown from the 3rd, 2nd, open. And then we have this slide from the 5th fret to the 7th. And then we drop down a string and we fret the 5th and the 7th on the 5th string, but at the same time we're sending that open low E. Finally arriving at the 5th fret of the 4th string. And when we hit that, we hit the open 5th and the fretted 5th on the 4th fret. Come back down to the 7th fret of the 5th string. So slow. So it's just important to note that when you're doing that, these notes, we're actually hitting any open string above it that we can. So it's very rhythmic, percussive kind of. So one more time, slow. Measure 86 and 87. Slow. The chordal kind of thing at the beginning is way different. We're hitting the 6th string at the 5th fret, and then doing that modified chord from before, where we're actually fretting with our 2nd finger 5th fret, D5, and then B5. So the 5th fret of the 6th string, that chord, sliding from the 5th fret on the 6th string up to the 7th, open, open low E, Then we have a 10th fret 6th string, that first chord, strum, there we go. Let's try that from the top. And then the second part is similar to the ending of measure 84, I believe, where it's really slow. So we're doing a slide from the 5th fret to the 7th, and it's we're strumming and muting the adjacent strings and hitting them if we can to make it dirty. And then from the 5th fret to the 7th fret on the 5th string, mute, and then the 5th fret of the 4th string, another mute, and then a hammer on from the 5th fret of the 6th string to the 7th, finally an open E. One more time. Measures 88 and 89. Slow. Pretty simple, we're just hitting the 5th fret of the 6th string. And then up here we're forming a little high chord using the notes at the 12th fret of the 1st string, 14th fret of the 2nd string, and then 12th fret of the 2nd string. So let's just get up there. So we've got that second chord that we've been hitting, and we're just kind of tacking on with our second finger for 12th fret of the 1st string, strumming everything. Our pinky frets holding the same chord shape, 14th fret of the 2nd string, and then I lift off my second finger from the 12th fret of the 1st string and put it on the 12th fret of the 2nd, like that. So we have this kind of thing. Let's go already. And you strum the whole thing. And afterwards, you're muting that 1st string when you're kind of not fretting it anymore. And then there's a little bass run up to finish that off. So let's do that slow from the beginning. Measures 90, 91 sound like this. We have a little bass kind of run up here. 5th fret of the 6th string slid up to the 7th. And then we fret the 5th fret of the 5th string. Come back down, 7th fret of the 6th. And we do a chord, that A chord. And then we're up here and we're doing that chord we're familiar with up here. So slow, chord, strum. Yeah, so that by strum I mean a muted strum. Mute, muted strum. And then there's this little run up here. So we're starting on the 3rd fret of the 6th string, and we're kind of bending up a half step. And then hitting the 2nd fret of the 4th string. And then coming back down to that 6th string and going 3rd fret, 4th fret, 2nd fret of the 5th string, and then open. So let me do that again clean. So from the top, measure number 95 is the outro, and that's coming off of this. And we do this chord. And then in this version of Dirty Pop, he starts arpeggiating. As he's talking to the audience, he's doing this. It's kind of neat. Very hard to hear. You barely hear it in the track. So that chord is open 6 string. We got an A7. We got a D9. We have a G8. We have a B9. And then an open 1st string, E. And he just kind of takes the root. This kind of rhythm. And then at the very end, he goes. And then, like I mentioned before, a little arpeggio to wind the song down. So that's 1st string, 3rd string, 2nd string, 5, 4, 3, and then 1st string, 3rd string, 2nd string, 5, 4, 3, etc. Repeat that. And you're done. This was probably one of the most requested tutorials I've ever gotten. I haven't seen anyone doing it anywhere. So it was real fun to learn all the ins and outs of it. I hope I got it right. I hope I taught it in a manner that you guys can pick it up. And look forward to churning out some more tutorials for you guys. Thank you very much.